Hello, I'm APX Toycat, and welcome back to an episode of the Minecraft Bedrock Update Adventures Let's Play. And today, I wanted to mention that I have committed one of the cardinal sins of Minecraft before. I have wasted my diamonds on a hoe. This seems like a really terrible decision because the internet seems to be generally very anti-hoe, or at the very least they think that diamonds are better spent elsewhere. When you have valuable resources, why waste them on a hoe? It does seem like a logical thing to say, but let's be honest, there are so few ways to use diamonds these days in terms of if you have 100 diamonds, do you need that many tools? And if you do need that many tools, can't you just trade for them with a villager? The answer to all those questions is pretty much yeah. You always have more diamonds than you need for the most part. I would be shocked if anyone who's been playing Minecraft for many years doesn't have that situation. And as a result, today I'm going to be justifying why you should waste diamonds on a hoe and actually going a step further and saying you should enchant your hoes and, you know, perhaps get like the efficiency 4s or the fortune 1s, or even to go a step further and to suggest that you should not only waste diamonds on a hoe, but also waste some netherite as well. That's right, in today's video, I'm wasting netherite on a hoe, and I'm actually going to be talking about the situation where this is a good idea, because I do actually want and maybe need a netherite hoe, and the biggest reason actually is to do with enchanting, because if we get to level 30, I've got my lapis right here, but I am very slightly too low to get the enchantment I want, because as you saw from my previous enchantability, I was about to get efficiency 4 on that hoe, whereas now I have the ability to get efficiency 4 as well. But if we actually enchant this, I always recommend having a source of experience somewhat, you know, near your enchanting table and your anvil, just for the moments like this where you're a little bit of XP short, and you know, everyone always needs extra food, so have a cow farm, breed the cows, kill some cows, and then you can get yourself the last few levels when you need it, like just right here. Okay, there we go. I bred some cows, and that should take me just over the limit. By the way, it's worth mentioning, the netherite hoe looks really cool in your inventory. Like, if we ignore valid reasons, because let's be honest, when you're thinking about how much you love hoes, you're not thinking in logical senses. If we're just talking about purely aesthetic things, this netherite hoe looks so cool in your hands. I think I agree personally, and it looks really cool on the hotbar as well. But the real reason you actually want to have a netherite hoe is because all netherite tools and armor actually have a serious benefit of being more enchantable than their diamond counterparts. So after we go to sleep, something I can show you right now. Obviously, we're talking about averages. This could just be efficiency 4, but on average, you're going to get more and better enchantments when you enchant a hoe. It was the worst case scenario. You know what? Should we do the unthinkable and get another diamond hoe and waste another netherite ingot on it? I think we should. You know, I mined ancient debris for 3 hours and a bit to get enough for this. You know what? I think it's worth doing. Let's grab another netherite hoe. Let's see what this one gets, because I really want to have unbreaking as well. If you don't get unbreaking on your hoe, I think you've made a mistake. Ooh, you know, unbreaking 1, I'm not really feeling that, but I guess we have to go for a big enchantment here. I accidentally just used my netherite hoe for the first time to just randomly till this piece of ground. So I'll leave that tilled for as long as it wants to remain tilled. Just as a monument to me breaking in this new... Okay, there it goes. Like many things in life, it fades away before you have time to really appreciate it. Anyway, let's go get me some levels. So recently, I looked at someone's world and I saw a really nice to-do list, so I decided to make my own current project list. Here's the progress I've made so far. Do you like it? Anyway, as I was saying, when you enchant your hoe at the higher levels, because of the higher enchantability rating, you're going to get more things. In this case, we got Silk Touch and Unbreaking. You know, between these two diamond hoes, we have something really nice in my opinion. But yeah, you can get super nice hoes this way, and you might then say, but why do you want a netherite hoe? Why do you want unbreaking? Sure, this means that this netherite hoe will last for literally 8,000 uses, but who's tilling that much ground where 8,000 uses is worth that while? Well, here's the deal. Hoes aren't just for tilling anymore, but let me show you one of the best uses for this hoe now that the nether update is out, because it's something I really have wanted to do. One of the prettiest looking blocks, in my opinion, is best mined with a hoe because of 1.16. So, did you know that nether warts can be mined using a hoe, and it's much faster than any other block? Here is an axe, here is a pickaxe, here is a shovel, here is a sword, just in case you're curious. It's slightly faster, but the downside of using a sword is obviously it's, you know, like not the tool meant for that. The durability use isn't as good. So the hoe, on the other hand, especially with unbreaking, especially when it's netherite, can mine 8,000 blocks on average off nether warts, which is nice enough. But honestly, nether warts are better obtained using nether warts, right? So the better thing to do here is to find the warped warp blocks, because these cannot be crafted. Actually, I've always thought that's an oddity. Can we just real talk about the Nether update? They added a brand new type of warp block, you know, to go along with the Nether warp block, but unlike the regular Nether warp block, this one's not made of anything. I mean, we can assume it's made of blue Nether warts of some form, but they don't exist in Minecraft at all, and it's a very kind of weird, I would say almost not hypocrisy, but like just missing link of logic in the game. And to make things even weirder, actually, just because I found this fascinating, one of the things that I find strange about Minecraft is that you've never been able to turn Nether warp blocks into Nether wart, which I've always thought is strange, because you can turn hay bales back into hay, you can turn iron blocks back into iron, and you can do, you know, that with pretty much every single 9 recipe in the game. Gold blocks, diamond blocks, emerald blocks, netherite blocks even. Need I go on? The point of most of these 9 you know, like level blocks is to be storage for the resources that are not blocks underneath them, and I've always liked it being that way, which is why I found it so odd that that wasn't how it worked in the slightest. So I always felt this was kind of odd, but then I decided to look into it, see if it was like, you know, maybe like a mistake or if there was some reasoning, and I found this little post on the bug tracker where someone said that, hey, there's a bug, Nether warp blocks cannot be crafted back into 9 Nether wart, which again, it's weird that you can take 9 Nether wart, turn it into a Nether wart block, but you can't take, you know, the reverse, you can't find a Nether wart block and turn it back. And then, you know, what Jeb said in response to that was that this was actually how it works as intended. Someone posted that on the Reddit, and Jeb said that there are 2 reasons for why this works. The one is it's a cosmetic building block and not a storage block, compared it with the slime block, and said not the redstone block, because, you know, it's right, like the redstone block, which is meant to turn back into redstone, the slime block is not meant to turn back into slimes. Asterisk, more on that later. And then he said the second reason was the adventure meta game. You need the fortress to unlock potions, and they may want to use the Nether wart and other features in the future without changing the value of the fortress, which is fascinating, because this is a post from 2016. You can see it's 4 years old. This 4-year-old post was something when, you know, Jeb even realized back then in the 1.10 update that there was clearly going to be a Nether update that would use Nether warp block as a decorational thing, entirely unrelated. And I find that fascinating on the first point. But just in case you're thinking to yourself, like, wow, master game designer right here, something I find absolutely hilarious is that he references as a type of block that can't be turned back slime blocks. Slime blocks can be turned back into slimes. It literally is just Nether wart, as best we are aware, that you can have 9 of something combined into 1, and then it doesn't go back the other way. I find that super strange personally. And yeah, as a result, we have this weird situation where Nether wart blocks are made out of Nether warts but can't go back, and therefore warped warp blocks should be made out of something called warped warts, but we'll never know for sure what it's like because we can't reverse craft them because they match the regular Nether wart blocks. Okay, that's a really minor thing to be annoyed by, but given that we're talking about hoes anyway, right? Like, let's be honest, hoes annoy you in lots of minor ways, and also sometimes killing your dog. You know, it's like, it's one of those, you know, 2 things. It's usually something minor or it's something major, which I guess just means it's always something. But you know, let's be more positive about it. And as a result, a lot of people have this like super horrified reaction to seeing me waste netherite on a hoe, right? I mean, I haven't even upgraded my axe, my shovel, my sword. I mean, my sword makes a lot of sense to upgrade netherite. Why haven't I done that? But I've made 2 netherite hoes. You know, funnily enough, we have more netherite hoes than we have of any other you know, tool or armor piece. It's soon, you know, even right now I'm wearing diamond. I've got these nice soul speed boots that I've been running around with, but I haven't put those in netherite. Why would I spend it on a hoe? Why is the, you know, this visceral reaction is super interesting, and I wanted to talk about it because it's a reminder about value in this world, and it's also a reminder about hoes and how they don't fit into the value system. Because, again, if you try to look at things and give them objective value, then the value of a hoe is very hard to lock down and to find, at least in my personal experience. Like, when you're looking at a bag of potatoes in the supermarket, you might be able to look at it and be like, oh yeah, this bag of potatoes is a kilogram, but this bag of potatoes is, you know, comes from a more organic farm or whatever else. I don't know how people sell potatoes these days, honestly. I just buy the potatoes that I once read online were really good for making fries. That's the length of my potato buying decision. But some people love to get like perfect value from a potato. They're like, oh yeah, this potato bag's so much better than that one. I got a really good deal on potatoes. But there's no real such thing as getting a good deal on hoes. Hoes, in, you know, like in any sense of the word, are always going to be something which have this like lack of intrinsic value. But that lack of intrinsic value is one of the things that I find beautiful about the world, because with most other situations, with most other allocation systems, there's always going to be, you know, like if you think about, you know, houses in a very expensive, area. There are cheaper houses and there are more expensive houses. The reason the cheaper houses are cheaper is because they're usually worse in some way. They're less significant. Objectively speaking, a house that is worth, like 10 million is going to be better than a house worth 1 million. Maybe it's in the neighborhood, maybe it's in the size. Maybe you don't want size, you don't want to live in a nice neighborhood or whatever else. But like you can generally say that a high quality house is worth more. A high price house is worth significantly more than a lowly priced house. But yet you can't say the same with a hoe. I mean, the value I put on my Netherite hoe is super high. The value you might put on having hoes to do this, like, is there a real difference between doing this with a Netherite hoe and a diamond hoe? It's about 0.05 seconds a block, and the bigger thing to me is the enchantability. If you don't care about that, if you don't care about anything like this, we can both have a system where we're happy. I can have my hose, and you better believe I do have my hose, and you can have your lack of hose, or you can have a hoe which is entirely different. You can stick to iron hose. A lot of people think, yeah, iron is as high as I'm willing to go. Some people are even more stringent about it, and they have only stone hose. But yeah, unlike with every other system where there's some argument that you're getting something better or worse, when it comes to Minecraft, and indeed when it comes to hose, as two separate systems, they mean everyone can kind of be happy in their own way. You ever hear someone say like, oh yeah, there's this thing that everyone else absolutely hates, but I love. It's how a lot of dating sites make their adverts work. The fact that that is possible is delightful because it means that everyone can be happy in their own way. Everyone can feel like they are a winner. And that's something I wish we had more systems that work that way. In reality, a lot of the world can work that way, but a lot of people don't want it to. A lot of people prefer to have a world where there's like, oh yeah, there are objective people who are taking the good things and there are people who are left to not have the good things that they want. But I think like, the idea of like win-win is something that I really, again, there are a lot of people try to convince you there is no such thing as a win-win. There is only situations where someone is stealing from you because they take the value that you couldn't use and they use it for their own purposes. But I really do think a lot of like human cooperation tends to come in the situation of like, synergy, where like, oh yeah, the togetherness, when you add the two things together, they're worth more than the sum of their parts. Which sounds dumb, sounds kind of sappy if you think about it in the sense of relationships. Also, these two trees literally generated into each other, and I think that's beautiful. That's so cool that that could happen. I don't know how it did, but I really shouldn't have chopped down the entire tree before realizing what it was I was even destroying. Anyway, we also need to drop some stuff if I'm gonna keep picking up these warp blocks, huh? I just realized I'm such an idiot, by the way. The fastest way to mine shroomlights is also with the hoe. I was literally sitting here using my pickaxe and being like, well, this is kind of slow. But yeah, you can use a hoe and it goes super fast. So yeah, even more reasons to pick up one of these. Because, even though some people might be ambivalent towards the warp block, I think it's beautiful personally. You might disagree. I think we can all agree the shroomlight is a delightful looking block in Minecraft. So that's a nice one to take with me. Every time I fly past this frozen part of my nether, I'm absolutely terrified an actual ghast is going to spawn in and cause me some problems. And I'll be honest, my little fake ghast has caught me a few times, so guess that's a indicator that I did something right with it. Or rather, something wrong, maybe. Okay, so here's the scoop. The nether kind of hub that I use, the walkway between all my stuff in the nether, has this issue that it's surrounded by so many ghast explosion holes and fires that have come from it too, that in reality, it just looks like a wasteland. It looks like even like some form of anarchy server out here, right? Like it's that, kind of leveled and destroyed and ugly and inorganic. And that's why I figured, let's, use this opportunity. Let's do a little bit of destruction, and then let's overlay that. Or in fact, actually, we just overlay in the first place using some of our lovely new warp blocks, right? Wouldn't it be nice if instead of giant explosion holes, we had, some form of reference to the new Nether instead? Some, easily repairable, because, it's not exactly a giant challenge to come across these blocks in the future, but we just have something that represents the new Nether inside of our old Nether. I think that's important personally, and that's why I'm going to be doing this today. While also talking about the fact that one of the, instinct emotions I feel like we all have inside of us somewhere is this hatred for people who have something that, we don't, or even not even have something we don't. If someone does something bad that doesn't affect us, or doesn't affect, really anyone, but we feel like, hey, they're not the sort of person we like, we kind of wish bad things on them. We're like, hey, what's that all about? You shouldn't be doing well. And, that sounds ridiculous. That sounds like a kind of over-the-top criticism, but it's something you see non-stop, I find. You know, like, one of the core tenets of cancel culture, because we're seeing it, you know, every single, literally, like, month, we see the bringing back of, like, oh, yeah, you know, that whole, like, canceling people for a thing, we're bringing it back, but this time it's really justified. This time, and, you know, like, I'll admit, you know, the reasons always do sound like on paper, you know, like, sometimes it's super dumb, but sometimes it's like, yeah, some people did some messed up stuff. Let's try our best to make them not able to, you know, live their lives and have their career, etc. But the interesting thing that I find as a result of all of that, one of the interesting kind of sub-effects, is that there's a lot of people who jump on a, you know, train, not really caring about the cause, just disliking someone and, you know, something that they have, for instance, and being like, oh yeah, I don't really know what's happening in this case, but I'm gonna jump aboard the side if I disagree with the person under attack because I disagree with them fundamentally. And I feel like there's this big problem we run into sometimes where we just assume that if someone else has something, even if in an alternate universe where they didn't have the thing, where they weren't doing the thing, that we would be exactly the same. We like to be like, oh no, them having a thing, the better their life is, the more it affects me. But the ultimate reality is, the real thing to learn from is that I think the things that affect you most are those things that are around you. And I think when you focus on, it's literally like one of the most basic lessons that every like religion has to dive into and be like, hey, don't, you know, just because someone else has something doesn't mean you need it too, friendo. It's, you know, sometimes it's used helpfully and sometimes it's used not so much. And that's why, you know what? I know you're all jealous of my giant never wore little carpet pattern thing I'm making right here. I know it looks so No, this is... Wait, where was the ghast? I heard a ghast, but I don't see a ghast. You know, today we're going to learn. Do you think this is blast resistant? Okay, it's not blast resistant. Well, glad to learn the hard way, I guess. Let's... Oh, no. Okay, this is a disaster. This is... You know, this is what happens when you try to do nice things, apparently. The ghast here, this is an allegory for the thing I was trying to mention. The ghast has no gain... You know, the ghast doesn't even care about, you know, me or what I've done. The ghast just likes destroying things. Like, come on, seriously, it's so much destruction. You know, this is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things. But, you know, I'm going to try my best anyway. Let's put it back together right here, right now. And then let's put, like, a ceiling above it, maybe. That might be a good idea. Like a really high ceiling, I guess. But yeah, one of the things that I see cycle around, because one of the weird things about growing old, and by old, I mean, I'm obviously only in my 20s, but you see like generational cycles in the sense that, you know, the same, you know, community that was on insert thing here. You know, like even if we take like the Minecraft, you know, community around me. But I've noticed this one repeating cycle because I've been in this, you know, situation where I guess I would call it getting old, but maybe that's being dramatic. But I've seen something happen where if there is a community that has like a fixed kind of age, you know, like teenagers is a group that I've seen be, you know, replaced many, many times. Anyone else ever have this weird feeling where like when you were in, you know, insert a year in school, you're like, oh yeah, the people who are, you know, 2 years above me, they're so much older than me. And then when you, you know, look down at like the people who are 2 years below, you're like, they're so young, they'll never be insert thing here. And then you look in, you know, 2 years and like, oh, I'm the people 2 years above me, and the people 2 years below me, they were me 2 years ago. That's a really hard concept to explain. So sorry if that just sounded like dumb nothing, but it's like that is something I thought about all the time in real life, and I see it happen on the internet all the time, and I worry that other people don't, because what you see, you know, happen on the internet, there's obviously a billion different examples of this happening. Like, you know, you see it on the social medias. I see it even within the Minecraft community. There are, you know, the Minecraft names from, you know, like 10 years ago faded out, and every year a new batch of, like, every couple of years I'd say, a new batch of Minecraft names with an entirely new batch of ideas kind of replace them, and, you know, replace them often in a good way. Like, as a YouTuber who was like always right on the cusp of being replaced, maybe has been replaced. You know, if I ever was your favorite YouTuber, I'm not anymore. Yeah, there you go. It makes sense. It's normal. I don't ever expect, you know, I don't deserve just without any, you know, work your custom. But it's something that proves that point of like, oh yeah, there's always this, you know, this cycling body. You know, the reason why careers in entertainment are usually like kind of, you know, a lot of people always look at like a dumb salary, like, wait, this TV presenter makes 6 figures a year, and it's like, well, yeah, as a person who is in the entertainment world, you might not last very long. Same with like, you know, like hockey or football or whatever sports players. They'll get paid insane amounts for 10 years of their life, and then the rest of their life, it's like, oh yeah, they cannot be a football player anymore. Whereas most jobs, you work from, what, like 20 to 65? And I'm not trying to pity them, I'm trying to say like, oh yeah, you can look at that and you can see that people fade out. The lifespan of an average YouTuber is somehow even shorter than that of like the average, you know, normal person celebrity. You see people, you know, fade out every year just into the abyss, let's call it. I doubt anyone else pays as much attention to me because I guess I'm just always thinking about the mortality of everything, you know, in your life. Because, you know, like, there isn't just the life and death of humans, there's the life and death of lots of other things that come along with it. Also, where are all my nether warts? Did I really use that many up, huh? I guess I did. Either I put them into nether wart blocks somewhere, or I just never had that many. Either way, I have a nether wart farm. As you can see, something that I think is very weird, that maybe shouldn't be the case, is you can grow, you know, you can turn nether warts that you get right here. Wow, look at all these nether warts we're slowly growing. You can turn these, if we can find a crafting table, into blocks, but we can't do it in reverse. Very strange, I would say. Okay, there we go, that's nice. Oh, because we have the soul speed enchantment, we can now do high FOV nether wart farming. Something I didn't think I ever wanted, but apparently have regardless. Also, did you see that? There's like water bubbles remaining here. Oh, this is so weird. I found a bug. That's nice. You know, that definitely won't have any problems for anything ever again. Well, okay, wonderful. Honestly, these soul sounds are really creepy, right? Can we all agree on that? But yeah, speaking of creepy, let's slide back into the initial thing of like, you see like cycles repeat themselves on the internet. You know, you see a new generation pop in and kind of like replace some of the values of the old generation. But a lot of the time, the thing that's more staggering to me is not when people progress forwards. I think progress forwards is great. I'm a big fan of seeing the world improve. I want the world to be a better place tomorrow than it is today, and I want that trend to continue for as many days as is humanly plausible. But something fascinating that I see is the same exact idea, the same exact concept, just rehashed in a different way with different justification. You know, like, honestly, sometimes better justification. But like, you know, like, people taking the same ideas that people before them learned, like, oh yeah, but wait, we shouldn't be like that. And then instead being like, hey, those people who think we shouldn't be like that, they're the wrong ones. The real right idea, the correct thing, is the people who like, you know, do, you know, like hating people who are, you know, like who do a thing that I don't want them to do. That's actually okay. Just because it doesn't affect me, that actually isn't a problem because everything affects me, you know, like, and then more justifications about how everything is really an affecting thing, and therefore it's okay to be bitter, how it's okay to not focus on you at all and to focus on other people exclusively. And it's one of those things I see as a worry because I guess it's like a natural human behavior. We're always going to have people who focus on every natural part of human behavior, even the worst bits. Like, there are people, you know, there's whole YouTube channels dedicated to drawing out the hatred that's inside of us, you know? Like, oh, who are we gonna hate today? I'm excited. I hope one day we get to hate this YouTuber. Because there are, like, there's someone, there's, like, a lot of people who have existed in the gaming space forever that I've always disliked. And I remember the first time I heard a scandal about one of them, I was like, oh, I hate this. You know, it makes sense. He looks like the sort of person who would do that. Yeah, this monster. I was right to dislike him all along. That's what it really is. Because, you know, most online personalities, let's call them. I need to find Blackstone, but I have no idea where I left all of mine. So, 1 second. I was going to use Blackstone bricks because they're the closest thing to stone bricks that are kind of like a new nether thing. But it might be way more fun to instead use quartz because new quartz bricks sound pretty cool to me. So let's just find a bunch of quartz. I mean, it takes a lot of quartz to make not very much quartz blocks. And then let's make all of these into blocks. And then let's turn those into some quartz bricks. And let's make a nice little roof to keep ourselves safe, shall we? Wait, did that many block of quartz really turn into this few quartz bricks? Is it 4? Wait, 1 sec. So you have a stack of quartz, 64. You turn into 16 blocks of quartz. And then you only get 4 bricks? I thought you got 4 bricks for 4 quartz blocks. This is such an expensive block to use. Okay, well, I can't afford to use very much of this, but that's okay. But yeah, like there's a few YouTubers who I was like, oh, something about their personality is so annoying and I despise it. And then the first time any controversy came out about them, I was like, aha, I was justified. I was right. I knew it all along. I am the hero this world needed. We need more people like me to have vague suspicions about people like this to stop them being the sorts of people they are. And, you know, because of how, like, you know, even though there are literally hundreds of thousands of YouTubers, oh my god, there's hundreds of thousands of YouTubers, like, no matter what, like, realm you want to, how odd. No matter what realm of, like, fame or importance you're talking about, you're still going to find hundreds of examples. Because there's just, you know, like, thousands of examples, tens of thousands of examples. I am, you know, like, I have 1.5 million subscribers. We hit that milestone recently. That was kind of cool. And I say that not to flex, but instead to say, did you know, even though we have that many, which I think is a lot, and I think maybe you might agree, it's at least somewhat many, right? But despite having that many subscribers, it is still, you know, like, I'm still like the 13,000 high subscribed, which means there are over 13,000 channels with that many subscribers. So in other words, there are just a lot of big channels. And even though, you know, I feel super right to dislike a YouTuber based on some vague accusation that was never really proven, just seemed like it was correct. It's, you know, because it's like, yeah, I hate this person. And then you realize that, like, oh, no, actually, you're just justifying this hatred complex. Like, something, you know, they are, you know, like, clearly a successful, you know, I'll spoil it and be like, yeah, they are bigger than me now, and they were bigger than me then. Clearly, that's a thing. And a part of me's like, yeah, I just dislike them for that. I don't think they deserve their thing. But this whole, you know, and that's what it really comes down to. Like, a lot of people have this idea inside of them that they are the arbiter of absolute good and absolute evil, and that, like, oh yeah, if I don't reckon someone deserves a thing, then that's because they definitely don't, you know? There is a sense of right and wrong, and that sense, you know, the way right and wrong is defined is not by, you know, right and wrong is not a system that exists in the world. No, right and wrong is like the things that feel right to me. If something feels right to me, that's great and wonderful. If something doesn't feel right to me, well, that's a sign that something is definitely up, And I guess we're gonna have to remove these bottom blocks, but we're gonna have to be careful because when we use the Netherite block, we just destroyed 2 blocks at once. I guess this is the downside of instant mining. Do we have a slightly less useful? Oh, this one doesn't have efficiency on, so there we go. Efficiency is sometimes bad. Today we learned. But yeah, so it's really easy to just hate and to be like, yeah, I am the sole person who gets to decide what a good thing is. But one of the things that I guess I grew out of, one of the things I guess I realized was that it's easy to think that you should be in charge of who deserves what, but no one person is without their biases. Like, I used to wonder, like, you know, I used to think there was such a thing as, like, yeah, bias-free. Like, oh yeah, no biases. That's a thing that exists. You just remove the biases. But the truth is like, you never remove your biases. You can just know what they are, and you can try and adjust for them, or try not to dive into the areas where you are, you know, most biased towards a thing. Like, you know what? I am really not a big fan of, I don't know, like, I think that something, yeah, I know, let's pick a topic. I know, I think abusive relationships are especially bad or something like that. And therefore, like, if I'm, you know, if I was the one trying to decide what their punishment should be, or if I was trying to decide if they're a good person and deserve a job or whatever, I'd always be like, no, that's not a thing. But yet that, you know, the people are not just one thing about them. Obviously, if I pick like a super bad characteristic, that's a thing. But then it gets into the messy zone of like, what if someone is just potentially that thing? You're going to hate people who are potentially, you know, like, there is a extra hate for people who are potentially a weird thing. I just realized I could have put this on like the roof, maybe. Yeah, I should have put this as the ceiling and then something else as the floor. You know, I realize the floor in this idea now. Maybe I should just use these quartz bricks to like connect into some other block, because I cannot afford more than that many of these. That took like a whole chest worth of quartz, and I got this many blocks in exchange. And I can't even take them back anymore. This is just how it is. I've made a mistake, but instead of admitting that mistake, I'm gonna live another classic old thing and be like, oh yeah, I made a mistake, but really it was a moral stand. I was making a moral statement about how expensive quartz bricks are, and by leaving this unfinished, I am proving how bad that is. But no, I think I have to do something. Just to re-express here, a whole stack of quartz turns into 4 bricks. 4 bricks. This is breaking my heart. So literally. Okay, this is gonna eat into my soul, but we have to do it. We have to take a bunch of these quartz blocks and turn them into quartz bricks, slowly wasting what is already a very expensive resource, just so we can complete this second layer of this like kind of second diagonally thing. And then after this, we can have a nice flat top to cover it all up. I hope. I really hope. But yeah, one of the hardest lessons to learn, one of the hardest things to admit, or like one of the hardest things to grow on, I guess, as a person, is thinking that like you are the one that knows everything and that you should be in charge of all the things, and that like your version of good and bad is up there. And again, like obviously, like the version of like, oh yeah, I should be king. Everyone grows out of that, or at least they grow up explicitly saying it because they think like, oh yeah, obviously I don't know how to run a society based and everything else like that. But people do start to think like, yeah, but I do know who's right and wrong, who deserves to be dead, and this. And that's like if there's anything we've learned from cancel culture, it's that, right? It's that like, hey, I think I dislike this person and therefore they shouldn't have a job in this. Like, oh my god, what is happening here sometimes? The idea that like you not only know, you know about this person well enough to have a good idea of like, oh yeah, they're definitely bad and they definitely 100%. I think we're gonna like bring it in a little bit on the sides actually. Use some of the last blocks remaining to make a little bit of an indent, and then we'll finish it up with regular quartz. But yeah, the idea that you are the superior person who knows everything about everything, it's something that's kind of laughable because it's so easily proven wrong, like we're all trying to learn about ourselves in this world. The reason we can never decide on an objective rule, a king, even if that's what you want to roll with, the reason we're all pretty against that idea is because there is never going to be one person who can, these are slightly misaligned. I am an idiot. Well, what we just have to do is we have to do the extremely painful thing, grab another couple of quartz bricks, and just extend both of these another block this way. Oopsie. Big mistake did happen. And that's okay. Making mistakes and learning from them should be something we praise rather than something we like actively criticize. I don't know, maybe this is my take and my take alone. But one of the things that I've really tried to do, and one of the things I really like value when I see, is people who look at something and like, evolve over time. I remember the first time I had a friend who was like, you said that before, and like the thing was slightly contrary to the thing I said at that moment. Like, like a couple of years ago, I'd said something like it was just about like my opinion on a gun or something in a game, or like my opinion on game balance in Call of Duty. It was something really dumb like that. Literally, it was something like game balance in Call of Duty. But they're like, hey, you said this before, and now you're doing this, and like I had changed as a person. I'd grown. My mindset kind of changed a little bit, but it was seen as this like super bad thing to like, hey, you thought this before and now you think this now? What a hypocritical, set of stances they are. Why don't they line up perfectly, you monster? Do we have a crafting table around here? I'd be shocked if we don't. I have a crafting table problem everywhere, except my nether apparently. But anyway, the point I was just trying to say of all of that is that I think we should encourage people to grow. I think we should realize that we're all going to go through this phase. Even if like even if you still think right now you disagree with that point, that you're like, no, actually, I have a pretty good sense for right and wrong, and my right and wrong should allow me to phone up and harass people's employers till they lose their like whatever like your position particular position is, like that's fine, have that, whatever. But the overlap, the overarching point of this whole thing, the thing I'm trying to say is that generally speaking, if you want to have a system where all of the individuals get to have the ultimate say on everyone, like all it takes is one person to, or even just one small group of people who decide they can end someone's career, in that meme, like, hey, person who is outraged over a thing you said 10 years ago, I'm about to end this whole man's career, right? If you believe, the problem is when you believe in a system like that, where everyone has absolute power, it's kind of like, if everyone has a gun, it's like no one having a gun. Except if everyone, you assume it would be like that, but the actual reality is if everyone has a gun, then a lot of people get, like, shot. Like, so hopefully defending good things. But if everyone, if everyone has a gun primed and ready to, because, at least... let's ignore the gun argument here, because like at least with that it's like, well, you may be arguing that like fewer people would do this, but like let's talk about everyone has a loaded gun that they're always pointing at each other's heads. Some people are going to get shot just by tensions. It's a well-known fact, maybe at least just in the UK, that if you go out if you go out with a weapon, even if you don't have the intent to use it, it increases the likelihood that you will use a weapon just because it's there, you know? You're like, oh, you know, like, in a tense situation, you'll make a mistake. And there's a situation on the internet where we're all empowered to share our messages with the world, and so many people share messages that improve others' lives, and so many people get stuck on the same logic of like, oh, yeah, the way I can improve people's lives the most is by taking some people out of the equation who I disagree with. But the problem with having a system that isn't based on consensus, a system that isn't based on everyone agreeing, it is instead just a small hate mob, because, you know, like, any issue you see posted about on social media, it might seem like most people, like, if you see your feed is clogged up with something, most people agree with that thing. It's in reality, a lot of people stay silent about things that they, you know, a lot of people are silent most of the time. If you just take the vocal minority of anything, because people who care really strongly, actually not, I mentioned guns as a thing. In America, that's a big hot topic issue. In the UK, we're pretty unanimous with our opinions. But like, you know, like, people who are super against and super for, you know, guns probably represent, what, like 20% of the population each, but they both seem like 50% each, or in some cases like 100% each, depending on which side you have more people, you know, more representatives in your circle. But that doesn't mean that that is the entire thing. The kind of like circling of hate, the circling of vitriol about how you know, bad a certain thing is. Sometimes it literally is other groups of people that people are effectively trying to cancel and be like, yeah, if you're a member of insert Y group here, I'm from X group, and that is the worst one. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, like, I had this thing where I realized that I was just getting on board with people's scandals because I dislike them. Because, you know, you realize there's a big YouTube scandal literally every week, but it doesn't mean that someone's always messing up. But I think the ultimate, like, kind of end result you have to take is you need to have some version of a system where everyone, you know, is taking place in some way. You need to have some system where those who are, you know, actually affected can have, you know, their say the most, rather than trying to, you know, talk on behalf of as many other people as you can. Because if you try to talk on behalf of the entire human population, you're not gonna, you know, like, you're gonna misrepresent a few people. If you try to talk on behalf of, like, some huge group, if I try and talk on behalf of every Minecraft player ever, you know, there's gonna be some mistakes. I have mentioned, you know, like, I'm sure I've said something in my Marketplace videos where, like, hey, I think that, you know, I'm sure there's someone out there that's like, actually, I liked Modern House, that's a thing. And realizing that there is a different perspective out there and trying to at least hear it and understand it, or at least realizing that, like, oh yeah, you know, when I reviewed this Marketplace map that was charging literally $50 at one point for one of the worst offerings out there, even though that was super bad, I think, you know, it's up to the, you know, to the community consensus, to everyone together to try and decide that's bad, or, you know, if there is, you know, like, or for the people themselves to realize, hey, maybe we're doing something wrong. I think giving people the power to learn, I think giving the collective the power, rather than trying to take that power for yourself, is always going to be a better idea, because the more you decentralize power, the more you let people actually make decisions that affect them. Because so many times we've seen this idea that, like, people think they know you perfectly, right? They think they understand everything about you based on some tiny snippets, but they generally don't, right? I feel like we need some more Neverwart just to go over to this little corner here. I think we'll do that, actually. Because it feels weird that I've kind of, like, extended it this way now. I should put something out here, actually. Maybe if we put, like, a nice wall there to make it, like, extra safe. And maybe even a wall here or something. We could put, like, a chest room here. Like, a nice Nevery chest room. That'd be nice. I'd like to hear your opinions. Except, actually, no, I wouldn't. I get to speak on behalf of all of you. You all like my Neverwart little pattern. It's pretty basic, actually. We could probably do something more of that. But no, you all like it. That's the line that I'm telling. But yeah, is everyone else, like, I'm sure we've all been from this, like, moment where, like, someone is sure they can speak on behalf of us, and they're, you know, like, they understand perfectly what we want. Without ever speaking to us about it, like, they just know, because based on some characteristic about you, they understand the rest of you. And yeah, even though one of the things one of the games I like to play when I meet someone new is I make a lot of guesses about them based on, like, generalizations. I don't mean, like, look at one characteristic, generalize on that. Look at a bunch of characteristics and see what lines up. Like, hey, this is someone who is, you know, university educated, went to insert area there. You know, like, if you use, you know, like, certain things together, you can piece together a lot about someone, and you can work out other tenets of their personality, perhaps. And, yeah, the number of times I've done this, and people have been like, how did you know this about, you know, my father or whatever? And like I've done some really dumb like psych games where it's just like, hey, you can play the probability games on that. But in spite of that, even though I can make a good guess about you know, someone being this based on that, someone being wealthy based on their you know, something or other, that still doesn't mean that I know that person. Just because you know a detail about someone, you don't know the rest of the details. And that's why it's important, if you ever want to act on someone else's behalf, that you understand those people. If you want to act on behalf of someone else's fans to cancel that person, to remove that entertainment from their lives, you should, you know, understand what matters to them and why. And if you don't like what matters to them and why, then that's the thing you should be changing, not trying to be the judge, jury, and executioner of the world. Or maybe I'm crazy. You know, I don't know for sure. But what I do know is I hope you all enjoyed this Minecraft video. I think that if you want to have a world where we all have a relationship with our hoes, where we all like our hoes, we don't have to cover other people's hoes, where I can upgrade my hoe to Netherite and you don't have to, but we don't have to hate each other over it, then you have a world where more people can live and let live with as many things as they can. Except, I should clarify right here actually, asterisk, sometimes people commit crimes. Just in case anyone's like gonna like see this and be like, hey Toy Cat, I think you're defending a person who did a bad thing, you know, like a literal crime. It's like, if they did a literal crime, that's bad. If it's a crime under the jurisdiction in which they live in, that is objectively not okay according to their laws. We could talk about how laws work sometime, but you know, for now, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. I need to reorganize my entire chest system because of so many new blocks that I'm going to be farming en masse. But all I know for now, I have blackstone lying around somewhere, and I really don't know where. Oh, there it is. It was in front of me the whole time. I think we're going to polish this up, and we're going to use it as part of that room, actually. But yeah, thank you very much for watching today's thing. I think the Nether update has added a bunch of new like possibilities for projects and whatnot, and I'm like really excited playing around with it. And as a result, I'd like to hear from you. What have you made in the Nether update so far? And what do you think I should do with this new little Nether area? I think everyone's doing new stuff in the Nether, and mine is like pretty well defined as to what it is and where it is, etc. So I want to know, like, what do you think I should do? Maybe question mark. Because, ooh, actually this is a bit too flat for wall. I think we need to like extend it out a bit better. Because right now we have this weird, like, what even is this, like a trapezium shaped room? You know, trapezium shaped room. Best way to do a room, in my opinion. Maybe we could have like a little escape hatch down here. Yeah, that's what we'll do with this. We'll make this deliberately a little escape hatch. And then from down there, you can get to other places. And it all ties into here. Perfect. There we go. Life is good. Life is fine. And you know what else is fine? You for watching this video. Thank you for watching it. Like it if you liked it. Share if you really liked it. I hope you have a great time playing with their update. And if you disagree with me, that's cool. Maybe I'll change my mind. I'll be an idiot right now. That's one of the constants of life, in my opinion, is that you'll always think that past you is an idiot, and you think that you right now knows everything. And you know what? I'm totally right there, right now. Anyway, yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.